On January 21st, 2017, history was made. An estimated 2.6 million people took part in 673 marches in all 50 states of the United States, as well as 32 countries, from Belarus to New Zealand, even Antarctica, with the largest such march taking place in Washington, D.C. What began as a Facebook post by a Hawaii grandmother the day after Hillary Clinton's loss in the November presidential elections bloomed into a massive protest uniting people of all ages, races, and religions who crowded downtown Washington, calling for a revolution as a bulwark against a new administration and the Republican-led Congress that the crowds feared will roll back reproductive, civil, and human rights. To reach the rally in Washington, D.C., people drove, they took airplane flights in, the train, and they took buses. So many buses, in fact, that special parking areas had to be set aside to accommodate them. I was on one such bus which left from St. Petersburg, Florida on the way to Washington, one of two men aboard the bus. Unfortunately, we didn't make it. This is our story.
Okay, so I bought milk of magnesia because they said that's the best thing for if you get pepper spray in your eyes. Oh. But I bought little vials so we could create buddy system, so somebody will have some available if that should happen. It's not going to happen, but wouldn't you like to know you have access to it?
Absolutely.
So I was buying that, and I thought to myself, oh, Linda, you should buy some,
A small crowd is gathering behind Home Depot in St. Petersburg with their bags and their bottled water and the things they'll need for the trip from St. Petersburg to Florida. Linda Nelson, the woman who organized the buses traveling from St. Petersburg to Washington, is one of the bus captains, as well as Joelle Hobbs, a combat-hardened Marine veteran. Joelle described some of the reasons why she got involved with the Women's March and why she is traveling to Washington, D.C.
Okay, so my name is Joelle Hobbs. I'm a 17-year veteran. I'm not in the service anymore. What I've seen over my career is that women have done the jobs that men have done and not got the recognition. I fear that with this new administration that we will go backwards because there's some, I don't want to say misogynistic, but it seems like a misogynistic viewpoint of that women can't do these jobs, which isn't true. They've actually done them. So to say that they're not able to or not willing to is false. I've also seen women do incredible things and not get recognition, not get the benefits that men do because they're somehow discounted because they're women. I've also seen campaigns and missions go bad, and I've heard people say, well, it's because there was a woman in there.
Now, you've been in combat, right? So, being in combat as a female, surrounded by male soldiers, what is that like? Does gender matter in the heat of battle?
No. I will tell you that generally, in the midst of all that, there's no time to think about it. It's just all reactionary, and it's motor muscle movement. Your muscles just react to the way it needs to be done. And so, unfortunately, I shouldn't say fortunately, I have not received any negative feedback. In fact, I've actually converted some gentlemen who were not necessarily supportive of the fact that I was there. And,
that was my next question. So men who had a level of suspicion or skepticism, scorn about a woman serving in a combat position after having been in a combat situation with a woman, have you found that pretty much that it kind of eliminates or alleviates the scorn and the skepticism?
As long as the woman did her job. And honestly, it's just like that for any soldier. There's scorn that's put upon men who can't do the job, and that does happen. Men freeze up. I've seen it. I actually had somebody ask me, well, did you cry when you were in combat? And I said, no, but I saw men cry.
So I know that you've heard kind of thing, well, that there's a kind of a commonality in the military that, well, you should support Trump because, he's pro-military, so if you're not, somehow that makes you less of an American. If you're military, so you should automatically support this candidate.
That's negative. I don't think he's pro-military. I think he's pandering. He's never served a day for this country. He's never sacrificed anything for this country, anything. I have suspicions that he was a draft dodger based on what I've seen on his medical records, that he got these deferments and fine, whatever, but then the minute he gets out of college, he's all of a sudden so disabled that he can't go for service country.
Hey, Audie from Clearwater, Florida, and I am marching for my granddaughter, my mother, who has been dead about 25 years, and all of the men and women who need to be able to love whoever they love. And it feels as though all of that may be in jeopardy, and that's why I'm here.
The buses arrive, and the large group that is assembled for the rally divide into two groups. We all file aboard, and on my bus, I am one of two men on the bus. Many of the women are wearing knitted hats that look like cat's ears, and these are called pussy hats.
Florida pussy hat, no less. That's fantastic.
So what's with the pussy hats?
What's with the pussy hats? Well, it started with the pussy grabbing, right? And how pussy grabbing was just A-okay if you're famous or if you're rich. And suddenly, I think it's going to be okay for just anybody if we let it be okay for any one person. So, pussy grabs back. Pussy grabs back. Are you marching?
Women's rights. Have to.
The environment.
Have to.
What else?
Have to.
Healthcare.
Have to.
Anything else?
Equality.
Equality.
Free press.
What else?
Free press.
Free press.
Free press.
You don't want them in cages anymore?
Not anymore.
People are calling them USA. You don't want that?
No. That would be me. USA.
All right.
I got my half.
One. Here we are. We are locked and loaded with another bus tailgating behind us. So we are on our way to DC. And what are we gonna let them know?
That we will be heard.
We got a lot of reasons why we're coming. Most of all, we want them to hear our voice. My girlfriend Holly and I file aboard the bus, and the mood on the bus is festive and excited. These women are eager to get up to Washington to make their voices heard, and as one of two men on the bus, I do not feel the slightest bit intimidated or unwelcome. In fact, the women are happy to have me along. These women on the bus are not man-haters. They're not eager to get up and burn things, break the law, cause chaos. They simply want their voices heard. During the last election, they feel that their voices, their bodies, and their points of view have not been respected, and this is why they're making this trip. We stop in Georgia to refuel, and the women file off the bus and into a travel center where a long line promptly forms for the ladies' room. Some ladies decide, oh, the heck with it, they're going to use the men's room as well, and some of them, aided by the two men on the bus, help them go into the men's room where startled truckers gawk at them as they use the facilities there, the bathroom stalls. The mood is joking and festive, and soon we're back on the bus again and on our way. The sun starts to sink below the horizon, and soon it becomes night, and everything is uneventful on our trip until around 1:30 in the morning. I'm in a light doze when I notice that the pitch of the bus engine has changed, and soon the bus is slowing down and pulling over to the side of the road. Other women on the bus are starting to take notice that we are slowing to a stop on the side of the road, and the driver gets out to examine the engine in the back. Semi-trucks are blasting by us, and the driver comes back and says that there has been a mechanical issue. A fan belt is broken. He has to wait for the engine to cool long enough so that he can try to get us off the interstate. At this point, the mood on the bus is concerned but calm. Obviously, we all want to get off the interstate. We're in a very dangerous situation here. If a semi-truck or other car drifts into the breakdown lane because the driver is texting or falling asleep at the wheel, a catastrophe could ensue. So we're waiting to find out how long it'll be before we can get back up and running again.
Pretty soon, the driver, Eugene, starts the bus, and we make it off the interstate, driving through extremely foggy roads into some small town. There are very few lights. We can't see exactly where we are. The bus drives slowly through a 2-lane road. There's darkness all around and very few lights, and the road is extremely foggy. Eventually, we get to a brightly lit light, which turns out to be a gas station. There are bright lights above all the pumps, but the gas station is deserted and it is locked up tight. We're now approaching the hour of 2 in the morning. The bus stops and some of us file out to find out where the heck we are. It turns out that we are in Fairmont, North Carolina. With the bus idling, our bus driver Eugene gets on the phone, which is a challenge because this place has very poor cell phone signal reception. Most people, including myself, are unable to get a signal in order to send a message for help. Eugene is on the phone with the bus company and the service technician company to try to get some assistance, either a replacement bus or someone to come out and fix the bus.
I looked at that myself, and I also found by looking at it a little closer, there was more than one belt off. There's 3 belts off that I can see. None of them are broken. One is still hanging on a crankshaft. The other one I picked up and I've got. So there's 2 belts that I have that aren't broken. May not be good though. And the other one that's hanging on the crankshaft. But
okay. Alright, well they usually come with spare belts for all the employees, but in order to get to you, we need a physical address, and then of course we'll need payment after the service is complete.
No.
Payment.
Okay.
Is there someone at your office I need to contact?
Yeah, a bus. Get us a bus.
Oh, no, this is the mechanic.
You're a wonderful mechanic. Can you help?
Well, Eugene talks to the bus company and the service company to try to arrange for either a replacement bus or a technician to come out and repair this one. And while Linda and Joelle, the 2 bus captains, are on their phones trying to arrange for some assistance so we can get back underway, the rest of us wait glumly. Standing under the bright lights of this deserted gas station, it feels like we are on an island all by ourselves. There are no people, there are no cars that can be seen. The only other building that we can see is really a McDonald's about 500 yards down the street. In order to get help sent to us, we need to find out exactly where we are. So Linda and I look at these certificates that are taped to the inside of the gas station windows to determine exactly what this address is. It becomes clear that help is not going to reach us for at least another several hours. Since we were already about an hour and a half to 2 hours behind schedule when we broke down, the chances of making it to Washington, D.C. in time to make the rally is looking more and more remote. The mood turns more glum as we start to realize we may not be able to make it. Even if there was a spare bus, the bus drivers have been driving all day. That means that they are bumping up against the Department of Transportation regulations, which limit how long a bus driver can drive. Even if there was a spare bus, there may not be a driver who would be able to drive us the 5 hours to Washington, D.C. at this point, because they will have been driving all day anyway. Since there's nothing else to do, my girlfriend Holly and I decide to walk down to McDonald's to see when it opens. We make the 500-yard walk down the deserted, darkened street. I rap on the glass lightly, and the black woman inside, who's getting ready to start the day, looks at me with a terrified look on her face and calls off to a colleague that I can't see. "There's a white man at the window!" she shouts. Holly and I go to the drive-in window and explain that we have a bus that's broken down and ask them when they open, and let them know that when they do open, they should expect a lot of people to come in who are going to be hungry and are going to be in desperate need of coffee.
I think once we are able to get inside McDonald's and maybe have a
Have a cup of coffee, get there and relax.
Tired and hungry.
So you want me to just drive everybody over there and have a meet me over there?
I don't
I mean, it's
I'd
better.
rather us not be walking on the road, honestly. I can't bear to have like a headline attached to it that one of us gets
because I
turned
could always
off.
come over here with the guy that gets the 18.
No, that's true.
We get back aboard the bus, and Eugene drives the bus the 500 yards down the deserted, empty street to the McDonald's parking lot, where at 5 a.m. when it opens, we promptly file in and continue trying to figure out how to get home. Because at this point, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to make the rally. We're all bitterly disappointed, and the only things in our minds right now are how to get home from Fairmont, North Carolina. According to what we're hearing from Joelle's and Linda's attempts to deal with a bus company rally, they have left us on our own. They are not able or willing to help us to get home. They have no buses available, and there doesn't look like there's much chance that a technician is going to be able to come out and repair this bus. At this point, we're trying to figure out what we can do to get home. We are stuck in a small town. There's no taxis, there's no rental car places. The closest place that we can think of where we might be able to rent a car or multi-passenger vans is in Fayetteville. So what's the best way for us to get home? Should we rent large, passenger vans? Should we try to rent cars? What would it take to get another bus? At this point, we're trying to look at all of our options as far as getting back to Florida, since it looks like we are completely on our own. We are all tired. We're bitterly disappointed that we're not able to make the rally, and we just want to go home at this point. The locals of Fairmont start streaming into the McDonald's and are taken aback by this group of women who have invaded their local gathering place for their morning routines. However, even though we're in the heart of Trump territory, the locals were extremely gracious. Some retired gentlemen sitting in a booth volunteered to take us to either Fayetteville or the next town over, where there is an Enterprise rent-a-car. The lone police officer of Fairmont, North Carolina has arrived, a tall gentleman with a very thick southern accent who has made it clear he will do what he can to help us get on our way. He explains that there is a military transport bus that they can requisition that can take us to Fayetteville to the airport so that we can rent a car, or if worse comes to worse, book a flight back home. Holly and I are trying to figure out how we're going to get to the Enterprise rent-a-car place so we can rent a car to get back home. It's a significant expense, but at this point we don't have much choice. We don't know how else we're going to get back to Florida. Almost as soon as this gracious offer by the Fairmont police officer to requisition a bus comes along, we find out that Raleigh has indeed found another bus for us. At the exact same time, there's a technician who is working on the existing bus that brought us here. Another small snag comes up when Eugene tells the bus company that someone is here who has the right parts and is able to repair this bus so that we can be on our way. The bus company doesn't know who sent the repair person, at which point Linda explodes and says that it doesn't make a difference who's repairing the bus as long as it gets repaired.
We want confirmation on that because people are stopping their plans of getting on airplanes and rental cars. Hello? Well,
Good. Let me just finish. Okay. Yeah.
she's more concerned about we didn't send the guy to fix the bus. Who gives a shit? There's somebody fixing the bus.
Okay.
Not long after that, Raleigh comes up with another bus that they can send us, and meanwhile the technician working on this one will be able to get it fixed so a smaller group of women can push on to Washington. The rally and the march will be completely over by then, but they've come so far and sacrificed so much to make this historic day, they don't want to give up. The rest of us, having not slept for close to 24 hours straight, just want to go home at this point and wait for the bus that will take us back to Florida.
Let's just say, for sake of argument, we're more than 6 hours out. If this bus were to pull out right now, if it were, which it's not, we would still miss the march and the rally.
Go home.
Understood.
Yes.
this bus can take the Washington people.
Yes.
And then the other people can wait for another bus to take us back to St. Petersburg.
Yes, that sounds good.
Understood? So this bus, 30 minutes from now, can take you to Washington. You will miss all of that other stuff. Yeah?
We were going to mention that.
Does that sound like I planned?
Yes. Yeah, how certain are we of the fix?
Little Mr. Fix-It guy seems fairly confident.
I love it. I love it. Linda, you're doing a fantastic job.
However, there's even another snag in this story thus far. The technician is not satisfied with the repair of the original bus. So there's something about that bus that he's not comfortable with in sending people on a 5-hour trip to Washington. Eugene and the technician take the bus for a spin around the parking lot, and the technician concludes that this bus has bad brakes and is not serviceable or safe to take passengers 5 hours north to Washington. So ultimately, all of us who came up from Florida are ending up going back there without having made the march. We're in for another wait of about 2 hours before the second bus shows up. Meanwhile, the locals of Fairmont, North Carolina are streaming in and out of McDonald's, gawking at these strangers with their bags piled on the sidewalk, waiting for the second bus to arrive. This is the most exciting thing that's happened in this town for a long time. The sheriff has told us that apparently there's a lot of crime in this town. The bank across the street was robbed twice last week. Of all the places we could have broken down, this is one of the worst. But the locals of Fairmont were extremely gracious and friendly and have helped us out quite a bit. And we all feel a debt of gratitude for their assistance. So the next bus arrives. It's nicer than the first one we were on. And we drive back to Florida, bitterly disappointed, but our spirits intact. At a rest area, we stopped to take a group picture, and we have several more bus changes by the time we get back to Florida. By the time we get back there, we're all exhausted, having not slept and been continuously traveling for close to 36 hours now. We made the attempt, we tried to get up there, we were unable to do so, but there will be other rallies, and we will be there. Thanks for listening, and I want to send a personal shout out to Linda Nelson and Joelle, our bus captains, who tried everything they could possibly do to get us back on the road again. And also our bus driver, Eugene, who was calm and patient and stuck with us throughout the entire ordeal. If you have never marched before or rallied and wish to do so, by all means, hopefully we will see you at a future rally. Remember, the rights you have only because they were defended. If you do not stand up and defend those rights, someone will dictate to you what those rights are. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Even though I wasn't able to make the rally in Washington, D.C., I wouldn't have been anywhere else for all the money in the world. I was part of something historical, a movement of people that were rising up to demand their voices be heard. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. So, if you feel despair, it means you're not doing enough. Small actions by a large group of people can lead up to tremendous results. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.